always by producer, sometimes host Evan Valenti, and Max Lederman, who is coming on the show for, I think, the first time. Definitely the first time that I have been hosting anyway. Have you been on with Evan here?
I've been on with Evan, and so is my cat. My cat definitely made an appearance the last time I was on here.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct.
What the hell do I know then? I'll just get out of here and you guys hang out. How are you, buddy? How's everything going?
You know, not bad, all things considered. No complaints in my personal life, and, we're getting basketball back. But, obviously it's a bit of a somber week, I think, for everyone here in Boston.
So, just going off of that and, there's so much going on. You've got the NBA draft coming up on Wednesday at this point, NBA free agency beginning on Friday, short little moratorium. A couple days later, signings become a final. The season will begin December 22nd for a lot of teams. December 1st, players report for training camp. So there's a ton happening. But I think the appropriate place, obviously, to start for a variety of reasons is the fact that the Celtics family community, the NBA family, the NBC Sports Boston family lost just such a significant piece with the passing of Tommy Heinsohn, who it's anything that you could say about Tommy Heinsohn at this point in time almost feels cliche because it has been said so many times by so many people, so much smarter than me and so much more connected than him, obviously, than I am. But all of it's true. None of it is actually cliche. And you start first and foremost with the fact that Tommy Heinsohn was the Celtics, going back to when he, out of Holy Cross, entered the NBA, 1956, and, joined the Celtics family, never left. He is the only person in history to have a piece in all 17 banners that the Celtics have raised, obviously, to the various Garden rafters, first as a player and then as a coach, a broadcaster for the last 4 decades. He's a 2-time Hall of Famer, as people know. Frankly, I find it bothersome that he's not yet a 3-time Hall of Famer and didn't get to experience that during his life, because I know it just would have been another incredible speech when he does go in ultimately as a commentator. But part of the reason that we have you here, Max, is because you're like us. You weren't around when he was a player or coach. But whereas we grew up listening to Tommy and watching Tommy, you, over the last many, many years, had the chance to really get to know Tommy behind the scenes on a personal level, working with him and establishing a personal relationship beyond that. And so obviously our thoughts to you and in a more personal loss for you. But what were all these years like just being around Tommy, such, that legendary presence that he is?
Man, I can't even tell you. The thrill of my professional career, for sure, was getting to work alongside someone like Tommy, who he just drips basketball greatness off of him. When he walks by you, you just feel smarter. And what was great for me is that, so I grew up in Philadelphia, and I had never heard of Tommy because I just wasn't a student of the game. And I came up to Boston for college at Northeastern, and I put on a Celtics game. I'm like, who is this homer on the golf with Celtics? That's the reaction that everyone gets that's not familiar with Tommy. But you very quickly, you buy in, you lean into that, and that is what he's known for. I think around the nation is the homer, but not in a negative way. I mean, he just loves the Celtics, and so in the way that Adam, you were in our newsroom a couple of times back in Burlington before we moved. The way that it was set up, we had a little Celtics pod where me, another producer, and Kyle Draper were sitting. And there was just a chair that someone randomly put next to my desk. And I don't know why Tommy just started sitting there about 5 years ago. And so it was like we just hung out before every show. And I would get these looks from my producer sometimes, I'd be behind trying to get all my graphics ready for the pregame show. And he's like, I could just tell he was thinking, don't ask Tommy anything.
Anything.
And Tommy, I mean, we would just be, and the whole newsroom would stop what they were doing and just listen to Tommy talk about some random experience he had in 1979. He could just hold a room. He was a great storyteller. He was incredibly nice, and he played along with every kind of nonsense that we threw his way. Even if he didn't understand it or have any idea what was going on, he would just say something funny. He'd be like, whatever, and it was just great. It was a real pleasure. And I would, as our relationship grew. Like at first, you're a little intimidated when you meet someone like that. And, especially he's an older guy, can't really hear as well as he used to. So, when you're trying to tell someone like that a joke and they can't hear you, you got to repeat the punchline 7 times. And then you realize, oh man, 1, it wasn't a good joke to begin with. And 2, this is just never going to land. We had a couple awkward moments like that in the early going, but afterwards, it was just all great. And, Tuesday was a sad day for sure. But I think the last couple days have been good to just see the people honoring him and just see how loved he was. And, we all knew it, but just to see the absolute outpouring. And it's still kind of weird to think that he's gone, but, I'm sure the Celtics will do something great to honor him. And, he'll never be forgotten. And I don't know if anyone will ever be able to do what you were talking about, all the accomplishments, but, being with the same franchise for, 60 years, over 60 years, winning all those championships, being part of all those championships, and just really personifying the Boston Celtics.
I'm not just saying this because you're here. I tweeted this out. I feel it very strongly. And I realize obviously Tommy had deteriorated health in recent months and years for that matter that he was kind of in and out of. So I'm sure in some sense you guys were able to not just mentally, but quite literally prepare for whenever this day came so that you could honor him in the proper way. But NBC Sports Boston's programming in the aftermath of Tommy passing was just exceptional. All the different voices that you guys brought on from, Danny and Brad and Paul Pierce and Doc Rivers, various analysts, like Jackie McMullen, Chris Mannix, obviously Kyle Draper and Brian Scalabrine, and Mike Gorman, goes without saying. So many that, and some that I'm not even thinking of here in this moment, but it was really captivating television, interesting, fun, funny, a lot of great stories. Even getting to know him as you did you find that listening to those people, I don't know, you were further being let behind the curtain? You were learning even new stuff that you didn't realize despite all the time that you spent with him, or specials that you guys put together about the 86 team and the 08 team and the hand that he probably had in those?
Yeah, absolutely. You learned a ton of stuff. And I tell you, so when I got the call from my boss that with the news on Tuesday, it was just about business. It was like, unfortunately, we, throughout the years, there had been, moments where we're like, all right, just kind of be on alert. We're not sure about Tommy, his health. He had a couple hospital stays, and we couldn't tell anyone anything. And people were always like, where's Tommy? Where's Tommy? And we wish we could, but I mean, that's his privacy and things like that. But, so there were some scares in the past. So I wasn't really sure. I was hoping that it wasn't going to be this time around. But when I got the call, it was really just about the show. It was about, let's just get right to it. Cause it was our way of honoring him. And as much as I wanted to just take a minute and be sad, it was like, let's just go, let's just, knock it out of the park. And I tell you what, you don't really need to give us credit for the host or the guests that came on, because, you guys, I'm sure have put requests out for, anybody involved with professional sports. It's not the easiest thing. No one said no ever with the Tommy stuff. That just shows you that's Tommy's impact right there. People wanted to come on and talk about him and talk about their great experiences with him and help honor him. And I was really proud of that show, and I was proud of our programming all night. And I appreciate you saying that, but just for Tommy, it was all for him. And, hopefully we'll have some more stuff, coming. I don't know any plans, but I'm sure we'll have some more ways to honor him throughout the season and just forever. I mean, we got the Tommy Award. That's never going to go away. And what's funny about the Tommy Award is that a couple years ago, I thought Marcus Smart wasn't winning them enough. And and Tommy came, sat down at my desk, and I gave him his little packet of stats and articles. And I was like, Tommy, I got a bone to pick with you. Marcus Smart is not winning the Tommy Award enough. This is ridiculous. And he broke it down for me. He was like, well, I'll tell you why. He's like, he set the bar too high for himself the year before. He's like, the Tommy Award's about exceeding my expectations for you. It's not just about doing what you always do. And Marcus is too good at those things now. I need more. And I was just like, wow, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have brought it up. Wow. And now there's going to be even more pressure on Scal not to just give it to the team's, highest scorer like he does normally. Kyrie Irving has the single season record for most Tommy Awards, and that's
not right.
No, yeah, end of that.
That's it.
Like, that doesn't feel
Tommy
right.
Wasn't involved in giving those out that year.
No.
Oh, Tommy, that was a year that Tommy was not. He was not with us that often. He had a bunch of different issues that year, a couple different ones. So
I feel like it doesn't count if Tommy doesn't give it to you. I feel like if Tommy gives you all the Tommy points,
I think we're in trouble
it doesn't count if.
Then.
Well, my point being the record has got to be. We got to go back in time a little bit if we're gonna figure that out. Because look, I love watching Kyrie Irving play basketball, but Kyrie Irving is not what the Tommy Award's all about, right? It's just not.
You know what? It just shows you what kind of season that was. It was just a bad season where we all were just give it to the highest scorer on the team, whatever. But yeah, no, we track it. There's a couple people at our company that have been tracking it since it first started. We got a great spreadsheet with all the Tommy Award facts that you need, but it doesn't say who gave it. Tommy usually gives them. But I can go back and I'll go back to every single post game record and see, and I'll put a little asterisk next to Kyrie's name and just say,
there you go.
Al gave 20 of the 22 or whatever it was. So, but yeah, the Tommy Award will live on and we'll find ways to honor him. It's going to be weird though. It's definitely going to be weird.
I do think I'm sorry. I was just going to mention, I'm sure that you guys both saw this, but for anyone out there that didn't, Tony Allen.
I was going there.
Chris
yeah.
Vernon show. Well, please, you could tell the story that
I'm
not talking enough.
It's a great, Chris Vernon, who does a great job. He does radio down in Memphis and he works for the Ringer as well. He has Tony Allen on quite frequently. I think he's a weekly guest for him, if not very frequently. And he had Tony Allen on talking about Tommy Heinsohn, and Tony was talking about how much he looked forward to at the end of the game going into the TV and seeing if he won the Tommy Award. He would talk about how much he would have a play where he'd dive on the floor for a loose ball or he'd shut somebody down defensively and be like, I wonder if I got a Tommy point for that. I'll have to check that out later.
He'd go home and he'd watch the film. He'd check out the broadcast.
Oh yeah, he'd watch the film. He'd rewatch the entire game just to see if he got a Tommy point. And my point with that is, for the people that don't understand, I mean, if you're watching this show and you're watching this episode, you probably have an idea of what Tommy Heinsohn means to the Boston Celtics. And if you don't, this is a player, back in 2008, that was part of a magical championship run, who looked forward to the post-game show, seeing if he got a Tommy Award. And you can look at that. You can look at any player now or any player between, 19 whatever and now. Tommy Heinsohn has had an impact on almost every single player that's ever put on a Boston Celtics uniform. He's had conversations. He's probably talked to them about certain things he'd like them to add and work on in their games. This is, and I don't mean to be hyperbolic here, because the Boston Celtics have had a lot of unbelievable parts of their history. I mean, Bill Russell is, way at the top. Red Auerbach, way at the top. But Tommy, in his own way, because of his longevity, because of his positions on the team, is the tippity top of the ladder, even over Bill and even over Red. So, it might sound ridiculous and it might be, hyperbolic, as I said, but Tommy deserves his own spot in the rafters, in my opinion, just based on, I mean, literally since 1950, 56
yeah,
to
57 was the first one. Yeah, that rookie
to 2018 or 2020. Excuse me, I don't even know what year it is because of what's going on right now. 2020. He's had an impact on pretty much every single player that's walked through the doors, whether it's the TD Garden or Boston Garden or the Garden outside wherever. That's an incredible track record. And if you have guys like Tony Allen, who's not the superstar of the team, but a guy that was very impactful, that guy ran to the TV after the game to see if he got a Tommy Award. That is just the stuff that we talk about with Tommy Heinsohn having an impact on the Boston Celtics, and he's just going to be a guy that we sorely miss for sure, Max.
And he he told me that some of the drills that he would recommend for Marcus Smart with shooting in the early parts of his career. So, I mean, I don't know how much of an effect that was, but I'm going to give Tommy all of the credit, other than Marcus himself, for becoming a league average shooter after that rough start to his career. But Tommy believed in him, and he talked to all those guys, and they just revered him. And you hear that with all the ones that come on, that we're talking about Tommy, or even just just throughout the years. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we'd be doing our pregame hits with Mike and Tommy on the court, and in the middle of a live shot, a former player comes over, or a coach, Doc Rivers or someone, just comes over and just interrupts us. Like there's a camera with a red light. And it's those are those golden moments that we love in live television. It's like, it's not screwing up our show. It's making our show better. And it's all because the relationships that Tommy has. And I'm waiting for the refs to tweet something out, though. I checked yesterday. I'm like, come on, refs. We need a RIP Tommy or something, because Gorman had the line of the night on our show where he said,
I heard.
I'm in a better place, unless they put him somewhere near the officials, then it's not going to be any good.
Should be an honorary technical foul called by the refs, like as soon as the season starts. Just like tee up Scal. Just be like, no, we're tee up Scal just for Tommy.
I like it.
Yeah.
Are there signs of Tommy that you got to know, obviously, that none of us saw or even knew about? I mean, I think at this point in time, most everyone knows that, beyond being an NBA icon and all-time great across the different fields, not just, playing, coaching and commentating. Certainly he's an accomplished painter, and a lot of people at this point in time have seen his artwork on social media. But for anyone that wasn't aware, big reader, really a historian. I know that was something Mike Gorman talked about on your programming. Were there sides of Tommy that you got to know that, no one else was really let inside on?
Tommy is like, I especially now, like the last 10, 15 years, he didn't care about what anyone thought of him. He was just entrenched. He's like, I am who I am. He's not trying.
I think that's part of getting old too.
Yeah, it's just part of getting old. And so I think he was pretty much authentic. Like the way he was on TV is the way he was in the office. He's just a jolly guy. He was never grumpy like with the refs in the newsroom or anything like that. But I'll tell you one thing, and I don't know if people know this about him or not. He's just an incredible memory. I mean, the recall. He would be. Someone one time, Tommy just happened to be sitting next to me. Somebody tweeted, Max asked Tommy about his Miller Lite commercial with Rodney Dangerfield. And I was like, Tommy, somebody just asked me to ask you about this. And he talked for 15 minutes about the guy connected him with this other guy that, and where they were. It's like, oh, he worked at an agency out in New York, and he just could go and name drop people. And we're all just sitting there like, how do you remember these names? Not famous people, just backroom people that worked the deal out for him. An incredible memory and just a joy. And he loved talking and telling stories, and we loved listening to it. And like I said, the biggest thing is that he was just always game. We all remember a couple seasons ago, he was talking about Aaron Baines just being very fit.
All of Australia.
Right. And it came off sounding like he was talking about a certain body part of Aaron Baines, which was hilarious. One of the classic Tommy moments. And we were debating whether we wanted, the next time he was in was about a week later for one of our shows. We were debating whether we wanted to bring it up or not as a joke with him, because it was a Saturday, and Saturdays are always just where we kind of let loose. And I told my boss, I was like, I'm not going to ask him. You make me go ask him, which role he wants or which player he wants to talk about at halftime. I got to go get him sandwiches and stuff. I'm not going to ask him that uncomfortable question. And so my boss, Jim Aberdale, was like, so Tommy, we were thinking about maybe, I don't know if you heard anything about the Aaron Baines. He's like, oh, the All of Australia thing. My granddaughter's been texting me all week about it. And he was just laughing about it, and he didn't care. And he was totally game. He didn't take himself too seriously. And like I said before, if there was ever anything that we were doing that it was just kind of over his head, or he just didn't care to know about it, he just played along. He played along and just said something funny. And it was a real lucky thing, because with his status, he could have just been no. But he wasn't. He never said no. The only time we started sending him home early, so he didn't stay for the whole post-game show. He didn't stay for the last two blocks. that was a choice we made. That wasn't for him, or that wasn't what he didn't say. I need to go home earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It was a choice that we made because we didn't want to keep him up so late. He was always game. He played along with everything that we asked, and I really appreciated that about him.
Yeah,
I wish, I'm glad that we had the weird Celtics Twitter Tommy Heinsohn clash
convergence
because I got anything that Tommy says is immediately memeable. I mean, I think it's pretty easy, and in Tommy's particular, there's one where he has the easel, and he's got this big huge grin on his face, and he's smiling at the camera, and the amount of people that have put stuff there. And the things that they put there inside that easel is just amazing. Was he aware of how much of a star he was in the weird Celtics Twitter world? Was he aware of that?
Yeah, he knew. So he knew the term Weird Celtics Twitter. We had him do the post game segment a couple times when it first started, and he was funny. He was really funny. I had one. I don't know if specifically he knew about that, the big meme guy he was, but we showed him plenty of memes with him involved. But there was one in 2018 on Earth Day. There was one segment where him and Mike were both on because it was the playoffs and we didn't have the game, so they came in to do our studio shows. And and I did this little intro about because the Celtics were doing really bad in the first half, and then they started coming back in the second half. And I talked about this frog that was supposed to be endangered, or that was about to die or be extinct, and it came back. I was trying to be positive. I was like, hey, I botched it, of course, on live television, but I spit it out. And then I led into a Janos tweet about them being bad, and then I asked Mike and Tommy, are you guys Janos? And Mike was funny. He was like, I'm on the fence here. And then Tommy had no idea what we were talking about. And it was after a couple second pause, he was like, I'm going with the frog. And it was just so funny. And that's what was great about Tommy is that, like I said, I can't say this enough. He was game for anything. And there was a lot of times where the bosses are like, we maybe don't want to do this weird, meme internet thing with him. And the few times that I was really passionate about it, I'm like, man, what's going to happen? The worst thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to look stupid on TV. And sometimes that's funny, so who cares? So, he was aware of the weird Celtics Twitter stuff. But I don't know to what extent.
I guess in your experience, whether it's on camera or just in conversations with him, and unless he ever delved into this historically, it would really only span your relationship going back 10, 15 years. But was there did he have a favorite Celtic, maybe a modern day Celtic? Was it Marcus Smart? Was it someone like Smart? Was there that, we all know, going back to when I was a kid, the I Love Walter stuff, he loved Walter McCarty and guys but who were some of his, more favorite players in recent years?
He definitely loved Marcus. I'm not sure exactly. I never asked him. That's a really good question. There's so many things that I wanted to ask him. There's so many ideas that I have. Let's just come up with a list of questions. Just go to Tommy's house with a camera and just ask him stuff. But then the pandemic happened, and we missed our chance. And I never asked him who his favorite Celtic of all time is. I'm sure he said it somewhere. We have to look into that because it's a really good question. Who is his favorite Celtic? I know he loved Larry, but out of the modern guys, he's a big Tatum guy, really big Tatum guy, and obviously he loved Marcus. Marcus got a lot of those Tommy Awards. So if I had to guess, I'd say Marcus, but he never told me specifically.
Maybe the Steamer, Greg Steamsma, who he compared to Bill Russell. So maybe I'm going to throw Greg Steamsma out there.
I love it. I love that. I was in the control room when he said that. I'll never forget that.
Nobody has ever.
I remember watching the game, just going, "Did I hear that right?" And then I probably tweeted it like Tommy Heinsohn said.
But
we all heard it right.
Here's the thing. I'll tell you this. Just like Iverson's practice rant, I understand what he was trying to say. Iverson was talking about, you guys are asking me about practice, but you're not asking me about these games where I'm the best player in the league. What Tommy was saying was not that Greg Steamsma is the next Bill Russell. He's like, this kid has his instincts and quick twitch reaction for blocking shots are the best I've seen since Bill Russell, which is crazy, but is not as crazy.
Just a little less crazy.
Yeah.
It's just less crazy than he's the next Bill Russell. So like I understood what he was trying to say, if that makes it better.
So as we return to the program here with Max Lederman, who of course producer as well as a content creator and a guy that shows up on camera quite a bit with his Weird Celtics Twitter stuff going on as part of the post-game shows. And I would also say for you, Max, someone who has revolutionized the way that lower third graphics are done on television. That it comes back to you, my friend, and this is that you're starting to see it in other markets regionally. You're seeing it nationally. ESPN has followed suit in a lot of different ways. The sarcastic, downright sometimes offensive approach, and I say that in a not offensive in the sense that anyone would actually get offended, but comedically offensive ways that you guys have put some of your graphics together at points is yeah, I don't think you get enough credit for that. You get plenty of credit for it. I don't think you get enough credit.
Well, thank you. I'm going to forward this to my boss for sure.
Yeah, tell Kevin I said hello.
But no, at the end of the day, it's about time. What were we waiting for? Really, to me, I've always like we're sports, man. It's sports. Let the news people have their serious names in lower thirds for their graphics. We're just here for entertainment to have fun, and honestly, one of the first ones I did was years and years ago. I was doing a Felger and Maz little news update for the simulcast. Mm-hmm. So on camera, I was writing those, and I just didn't want to do it. I was bitter. It was a bad shift, and I was just annoyed by it. And I was like, oh, I hate having to do these. And so I just wrote a really sarcastic script, and I put in a sarcastic Bruins banner. It was like Bruins, 67-day streak without losing a game because it was the summer. It was the off season. And that got screen grabbed, and I was a little worried because people were tweeting about it. And I got called into John Zanis's office, who was at the time, and he just said to me, he's like, "Whatever, I saw what you did with that update," and I was like, "Okay," and he was like, "I liked it," and that was it. And I was like, "Okay, all right." Didn't get in trouble for that, and so then I kept pushing it with Jim Aberdale for Celtics. Every once in a while, and I always. We had a preview function for our graphics, and it was just my thing to just put jokes in the lower third graphics and just preview them, just for fun. I never thinking that they would actually be on TV. Never anything like really bad because you just don't play that game. But just jokes and stuff. And one day it was the Marcus Smart Combat Muscles one. Jim said yes. I was like, hey, what do you think of this? And he was like, okay. And I was just like, oh. It's just been whenever, and yeah, I see it on all different different markets. I've seen ESPN do some, and I'm here for it. I just love it. I think that and you don't force it. I think they're stupid when you force them. Because I've had people from our web department say, hey, let us know when you're going to do one. And it's just like, we don't know. I mean, Mark,
it just happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, especially after like a really bad game, nobody wants a stupid joke. And some jokes are just played out. Some when it's there, it's there. When it's not, it's not. And I just like I appreciate people giving me credit for it. There's a lot of really funny people that I work with that also do them. Mark Hazlett's one of them who I work with for Celtic stuff. He's some of the really good ones he's done as well, like the Ben Simmons. I can't remember the exact word, but he had one where Ben Simmons got dunked on, I think, by Tatum a couple seasons ago. He had a really lethal one that went viral.
I remember the dunk. It was in Philly, right?
Yeah, so I was at the game.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, so I was not working on that post-game show, but that was a great one. Yeah, so it's not just me, but I appreciate you saying that, and I want more people to do it. I think that we should. I don't think we should be serious. Sports are supposed to be fun.
Well, John Zanis is with us now, as you know, at CLNS, and I'm sure he'll be very happy that he got the shout out. And
John was he really was a great influence for my career, and it wasn't just because he didn't fire me for doing that.
Right. What I want to get into though here, especially in the interest of time, I want to make sure we have enough time to really dissect this. Is because we could go on for days, weeks about Tommy Heinsohn and fun stories and his impact on the NBA and the Celtics, and we still wouldn't have enough time. But things that are directly impacting this team right now, it kind of started with a friend of all of ours, Kevin O'Connor over at The Ringer, who tweeted out earlier today, sources, the Celtics have emerged as a potential destination for Pelicans guard Drew Holiday. Boston could package its 3 firsts, 14, 26, and 30 to move into the lottery and flip that pick to New Orleans. More details, rumors in his latest mock draft. You should always check out Kevin's mock draft. That, you know, he's been doing that for years and years and years, and since he was doing it for free, and no one was reading it. Now, you know, tons of eyeballs. He's obviously really good at what he does. But so that goes out, and of course the reports. I mean, Danny spoke this week, Danny Ainge, and acknowledged as much. He doesn't want to have 4 rookies, and he's, you know, looking into trades and the whole "it takes 2 to tango" and stuff that he's always said. We know that. You know, he never goes into a draft wanting to use all those picks. It just you know, has happened quite a bit in recent years. But you know, those rumors had been out there of potentially trading up or trading out or whatever it may be, and so Kevin does that. I send out a tweet shortly thereafter, which maybe you saw it. It didn't say sources or rumor or a report, or this was not me trying to break news. But I did put out a tweet that seemed to break the internet and continues to get traction here, for better or worse. And I said, it's possible that the Celtics flip picks and Kemba Walker to the Pelicans for Drew Holiday. Got to make the math work, right? And those two being together, that doesn't make sense. And send Gordon Hayward to the Pacers for a deal involving Miles Turner. Boston could once again transform its roster pretty significantly after a run to the East Finals. And then shortly after that, you had this guy, Evan Massey. I'm not familiar with his work, but he's written at a bunch of different sites, says Celtics and Pacers have discussed the framework of a Miles Turner for Gordon Hayward swap. Other pieces would be included, something to keep a close eye on, to which, of course, I was like, oh, you don't say. Yeah, makes sense. But tell me, Max, as you have followed along with this stuff over the, you know, not only the weeks leading up to where we are, but obviously this news today, does this make sense to you? Do you like this? Do you buy into it? Do you think that my tweet is annoying? How do you feel about all of this?
Well, I think most of your tweets are annoying, but not specifically.
Well, that's true. Our friend Billy Delaney will vouch for that.
Yeah, no, but no, it's, to me, I don't think that Drew Holiday and Kemba Walker can't work together. I think they would be great. I think Drew has been playing off the ball a good amount the last couple of years. He's obviously a point guard, but he's been playing the 2. I think he would fit. I think he would form him and Marcus, and, you know, if you get Jaylen out there too, you know, you're going to have a pretty formidable defensive, you know, backcourt combo there. And then, you know, Kemba obviously has got his defensive limitations, but it's just, I think if you're going to acquire someone like Drew Holiday, isn't one of the big issues that the Celtics need is depth at guard, really, right? I mean, so if you're swapping Kemba, you're not really addressing the depth issue. And I know Drew's been healthier in recent years, but you forget when he got traded to the Pelicans from the Sixers, the first like 4 years or 3 years, it was like, I mean, he barely played with injury after injury, not related, kind of like Hayward, where it was like fluky stuff. So I would say Hayward would be the guy. And Kevin O'Connor was on our draft preview show that we taped earlier. And he said that it's not necessarily, and he was just, you know, I think he was speculating, he wasn't reporting, but it's not necessarily that it's, you know, Gordon Hayward or Kemba Walker type player to New Orleans for Drew Holiday, but it could be there could be a third team in there. And I think that's where Indiana comes in. I know Indiana likes Gordon, and, you know, I don't know if the Pelicans would want someone like Gordon, but my thing is that I would rather trade Gordon than Kemba, just because, like I said before, it's the guard depth right there. And I think that, you know, Drew's going to be your starter, you know, with Kemba, Drew, Jaylen, you just take Hayward out and just slide everyone down. But Miles Turner, you know, I'm not like, I like him, but I know a lot of people that I respect their opinion think he's very bad at basketball. And I'm not going to stand for him because I just haven't watched enough Pacers. But a couple of years ago, he led the NBA in block shots, and he's a stretch 5, but he doesn't rebound a ton. And, you know, it's not like Celtics fans love centers that don't rebound. We're going to get a lot of, if they get him, we're going to be like, oh, it's just like Al Horford. Al Horford did a lot of little things that I don't think Miles Turner does. But look, I like Miles Turner. I don't know if I said it publicly, so I probably shouldn't out myself now. But last summer, before Jaylen signed his extension, I said, oh, it wouldn't be against Jaylen Brown for Miles Turner swap, which I think now looks ridiculous. I was stupid, but I'm self-aware and I'm willing to make my mistakes. But there's been that link there. For some reason, Miles Turner has just been a guy that everyone's kind of looked at for the Celtics, and maybe there's some smoke there, but I'm pro acquiring Drew Holiday, but not a Kemba Drew Holiday swap.
I mean, the thing with this particular trade, so if you trade for Drew Holiday, the offensive pressure, because I'm assuming if you're trading Kemba out and you're trading Gordon out, either way, really, if you trade both, it becomes even a bigger problem. You put a lot of offensive burden on Jason Tatum at that point. Now, are you willing to say, he's capable of taking this team, being the primary offensive player, and being the lead ball handler on a championship level team? I think we all are comfortable with that particular option at some point. Is it now? I don't know. But if you trade Kemba, or if you trade Gordon, or if you trade both of them, the offensive, the amount of offense that Tatum's responsible for jumps up a lot. I mean, I love Jaylen Brown. He was terrific in the playoffs, arguably their best player, most consistent player in the playoffs. Is he ready for that number two role consistently throughout a season and throughout a postseason? It's another question you have to ask. Because the beauty of Kemba, and I'm not saying Drew Holiday can't score. Drew Holiday can score. He can shoot the basketball pretty well. He moves the ball around. But Kemba at times can take over a game. And Gordon, I think if he's healthy enough, and can stay on the floor for more than 40 games or 50 games or whatever, he could prove to you that he could also take over an offense if needed be. Having more guys that can score usually going to be a good thing for a team, right? I think we all can agree to that. But having guys that can facilitate an offense, multiple guys can facilitate an offense, makes you more dangerous to guard. So as much as we want to hype up the idea of a fresh new team, because everybody loves trades and movement and all these things when the offseason happens. It's not always a great thing. Sometimes consistency and having a team, go through a season, look at what they're bad at, and come back the next season with sort of a new idea of what they can accomplish, and they've had more time to figure out how they play together. That's a good thing. Continuity is a good thing. I mean, you hear that all the time with coaching. How many times –
especially now, this offseason is shortened offseason. What you're saying is when you're talking about trading Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward, bringing in two new pieces in a vacuum, sure, let's get our NBA 2Ks out and let's see if that works. But in a month, they're going to be playing basketball, or a month from the draft. It's crazy how short this offseason is. So your point is spot on. So if it's going to be something like a trade like that, I don't think that you're going to want to move more than one starter. But to your point about Drew Holiday, I think that he could fill in that offensive initiator role that Gordon plays. I think Gordon had a great year last year. I don't want the Celtics to trade him. I think that they're probably good right now. They could probably still make it to the finals with just the team they have now. I do think that they need depth at the guard position. I think that they need an above average backup point guard so that you don't when if Kemba gets hurt, I don't want to say when, but if he gets hurt, you're not relying too much on just Marcus. I think you do need someone that's a starter that started in the league but is accepting a bench role.
There are a lot of things at play here. Among them, does Gordon Hayward want to be back? I mean, sure, he wants $34 million, but does he want to be back? Obviously, we know Ryan Russillo, put out on the Bill Simmons podcast, something we talked about with, your guy, Chris Forsberg there just last week, saying that he didn't believe that Hayward actually wants back to Boston. There are some people that have said that the families moved back to Indiana for school purposes, and does Gordon, and I don't even know if that's true, by the way. That's just stuff that's floating around on social media. The other part of this, and it's all directly kind of intertwined, and this is, I have a lot of thoughts on Kemba, but among them, look, I think they love Kemba Walker. I think they love him all that much more so because of the guy that he followed. That's a big part of it. But I think that I think even though Danny Ainge hasn't outright said it, I think that they are probably internally petrified of the future of that knee after, him being hindered by it over the course of much of the last calendar year at this point in time. And that was just year one of the deal, not knowing what lies ahead in these next few seasons. And so if you can move them in a deal that makes sense, do you do it? That's one part of it. The other part is, and I do think this is relevant. We've talked about this a lot with Hayward, in past years, not now that he's a free agent, haven't talked about it at all with Kemba, but it all kind of stems back to the Isaiah Thomas thing and the Anthony Davis thing and his dad and all of that. Kemba Walker, it went Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker is now to date, in my opinion, and I think everyone's opinion, the biggest name free agent the Celtics have ever signed in terms of a guy getting that deal and being, around his prime and all of that. If you trade him 1 year in, that could be a massive PR hit among players around the league, which is something that I know it's business first for Danny Ainge, and I just want the best possible team that's out there. I don't feel, Max, that that's something that he could ignore, though.
No, it's not. And I agree with you. I think that's why I don't think they're going to trade Kemba, and I think it's why they wouldn't have entertained trading Gordon before, now that he's going into his last year. I think that, they're obviously open for that. But also think about it this way, and where it would hurt them would be in free agency. They're about to lock up Tatum. They're about to be cap strapped for, the foreseeable future. This core, this team, they will not be players in free agency for big names for a very long time. So Danny may look at it and just say, look, I got to bite the PR bullet here. And if it takes me to the promised land, they put a banner up there, is it going to matter? But it's absolutely should be on their mind, because the Isaiah thing, I think, for sure hurt them. And again, for a team that for years and years and years just could never get the big name free agent, to finally get a Al Horford and then a Gordon and then a Kemba. And Kemba, we are so grateful for Kemba. I mean, it was going to be a dark summer last summer with Kyrie leaving and then Kemba comes out of nowhere. And you're like, oh my God, you want us? You want us? You want to come here? You don't want to you're not just happy because you got traded here. You chose to come here. That was great. And I know Drew Holiday's a great human being. Everyone raves about him. I mean, Kemba, they love him. That chemistry, I don't think we can overstate it. The chemistry that team had was great. They almost got into a fist fight after a playoff game, and the season didn't crumble. They didn't end up moving on to the finals, but at the end of the day, that would have never happened the year before. They would have melted down. There would have actually been fights. People would have.
So they would have melted against Toronto instead of Miami. They would have gotten past Toronto.
No, they would have punched each other after game one of Philly or something. But I do think that matters too as well. But you're right. The point that you bring up about the knee, I mean, boy, for a guy that never missed games ever in Charlotte, to come in and all of a sudden have a knee as a small 30-year-old guard, it is bad. But I think that a lot of people see that, and it's going to be harder to move him, and I don't think it's going to be worth the hit that Danny would take unless it's in a deal for Drew Holiday. But again, I think Hayward's the guy in that situation.
Yeah, in order to, you'd have to be. I don't mind this. If I'm a player, yes, Danny's history of trading everybody is sort of a negative. However, the flip side of that is, if I'm a player, I would say, okay, Danny's willing to do whatever it takes to make this team the best team. And if you're a player there, to understand, okay, you might not be the guy that ends up here, but this team is going to be the best version of this team at some point. I agree with you, though, that I think it's a bad PR look if they trade both Kemba and Hayward. Hayward maybe not so much, but Kemba 1 year into his deal after getting hurt, and even then, still playing at a pretty elite level. I don't think they're going to trade. They're not going to make a bunch of deals just for the just to do it. I think, if you trade Gordon, you entertain the idea of moving Kemba, but I think Adam said this a little while ago. It takes two to trade, and Danny says this all the time. Danny's not going to make a deal that doesn't benefit Danny Ainge. I mean, we've seen that throughout. I mean, he's held on to Jaylen Brown. He's held on to Jason Tatum. He's held on to all these picks. He's held on. He doesn't do a deal unless he feels confident that it's going to help him. Now, he's also, on the flip side of things, trying to trade 4 first-round picks for Justice Winslow, and luckily for him,
thank God it didn't
go
happen
that way. So,
that's the ones that didn't happen.
Right. So it's interesting that they're involved. And now where the news is coming from is always something that I always try to find out, like, where's this getting leaked from? Is it coming from Danny? Is it coming from somebody else? And because Steve Bulpett is not, on the beat right now, we don't have anything concrete. That's the guy, that's Danny's mouthpiece, or Jackie McMullen hasn't come out with anything yet. So that then like that's coming directly from the Boston Celtics. So, I am interested in the next couple of days to see if, what kind, because this team, as we talk about, this team needs a little tinkering. I mean, they have their core, right? We've talked about this a lot. They have their core pieces. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are the 2 ones that we know. We throw Marcus Smart in there. We throw, Kemba Walker in there, but we're not totally positive about those. But there are some moves that they need to make because they're not complete yet. They need to make a couple of moves in order to become a real championship contender.
Chris Mannix was on our draft show too, and he made a really good point. This pick, this number 14 or whatever it becomes, if they do end up taking a player, they have to hit a home run here. Or they have to at least get a solid rotation player that contributes to winning for the length of that rookie contract. Because like I was saying before, they're cap strapped now, and they don't have any more. This is the Memphis pick. This is the pick that we've been talking about for years. It's finally here. Danny's, coffers are empty after this. If he can't flip any of those other picks for maybe in future years. But and other teams know that. And, Danny doesn't lose trades. He does not settle for a trade that's bad. So that, because, people were really upset that he didn't trade the Milwaukee pick for the 9th guy on the bench or the 10th guy on the bench, for shooting. And I kept trying to tell them, like, whether you agree or not, Danny does not lose trades. He won't trade for a guy that's about to be a free agent, for 2 months. He won't trade a first-round pick. That's not his value. He does not. He has a consistent way that he values picks. And if this deal, even if he's got extra picks, it doesn't matter because then he's setting a precedent. Someone could say, "Hey, look, you traded a first-round pick for this guy last time. Why won't you do it this time?" He doesn't want that. So we'll see.
Timothy Mozgov went for 2 first-round picks, just to your point.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, and look. Kyle Korver went for a first-round pick. There's so many. Who was it? The Bogdanovich. The Wizards traded a first-round pick, and right when they did that, I remember. That's what bad teams do. Bad teams trade first-round picks, but at least he was like a starting level player. I mean, I had people in my mentions mad that they didn't trade for Alec Burks or Glenn Robinson III. Like, are you kidding me? I mean. A first-round pick.
This guy's killed it for Philly.
30 seconds, and again, it was about being able to take both players. And look, there's a lot of things that go into it. Danny's going to try his hardest, I'm sure, to consolidate those picks. If not, we're going to get Ante Zizic and Yabusele again, like we did in 2015. But we don't have the luxury of the 3rd pick like they did in 2016 with Jaylen. But that's what's going to happen if he can't move those picks. They're going to have to stash guys or trade out. But it's not like Belichick. It's not as easy, I don't think. And he traded out last year with Thibault, and that's not looking like a great deal now. But I don't think they were ever targeting Thibault. They were just taking advantage of a poorly run team in Philly.
How's the Sixers fan in Celtics country holding up?
Oh, great! Now that Doc Rivers is there, I mean, Daryl Morey. I'm a little nervous about.
About how good you feel about it?
No, about splitting up Ben and Joe. I'm a process truther, so I want them to win a championship together so that we can give middle fingers to everyone.
Ain't gonna happen, buddy. Sorry.
You and Draper get to hang together.
If I were a Celtics fan, I wouldn't be worried about the Sixers. Let's just put it that way.
Which one do you keep though, Max? Before we get out of here, you keep Embiid.
I love Embiid. He's my kid's favorite player. He's an alpha in every sense of the word. He is. You just look at the stats, the games where he is like the highest usage, they have like an absurd winning percentage, like absolutely absurd. I love Ben, but he's flawed as a player and as a human. His brain, something wrong with it. He won't shoot threes for some reason. and it's 2020. You have to shoot threes if you're a point guard. But like I said, I love them both. I want them to stay. But if I had to pick,
Okay.
Well, we
Just
want to
curious.
remind you this show brought to you by betonline.ag. Go to betonline right now for your exclusive sign-up bonus. Max, this was a treat, bud. Not only having you on for the first time that I was hosting anyway, but to, obviously explore all this stuff, but more so to go down memory lane, talk about Tommy and, the great loss for the Celtics and NBA communities. And, even this better than we do as it relates specifically to him. But even when you know that something like that is coming down the pike, and it doesn't really help you brace for it, the impact someone, it's been a good reminder of the impact that Tommy Heinsohn had on in all of our lives as Celtics fans. Not you, a Celtics fan, but all of our lives, just being around here, growing up around here. And special guy, he'll be missed, truly irreplaceable, no question about that.
well, thanks for having me on, guys. And what I've been saying to a lot of people that have been like sending me condolences, I say, look, Tommy was just as much your family as he was ours. He was the voice for all, like you were saying, for all Celtics fans for years, for 40 years. So, I mean, he was a part of the family. He really was. And like I said, every interaction I had with Tommy was just like he is on TV. So you knew him. You guys all knew him. And he was a real treasure. And we're at a loss now. We lost a great one, but his impact will not be forgotten.
All right. Well, for Max Lederman, for Evan Valenti, I'm Adam Kaufman. Thanks, everyone, for joining us here on another edition of Celtics Beat. And remember, stuff's coming quick. I don't know if we'll have another show before the draft or if we'll tackle it right after and sort of in between the draft and free agency. But whatever the case, however it works out on the calendar, we'll be back with you real soon with much more to talk about and maybe, just maybe, a somewhat different looking roster as well. All right. Be good.